Open up your hand, looking into the palm, count what you see. That's the gap right now. That. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also cover two other teams in town, the Steelers and the Pirates, and I offer daily shots on those as well. Penguins 6, Sharks 3 last night at PPG Paints Arena. No one can claim to be surprised by any component of that. The Sharks are really, really bad. They're the worst team in the NHL. They also give up a ton of goals, and they were going to lose and give up a ton of goals almost no matter what the home team did. So it wasn't a particularly impressive performance. In fact, when you get into the advanced analytics of the game, Penguins actually got outplayed. Also irrelevant, who cares? Right now, it's who cares for me as far as style points. Been that way for a while. It's all about real points. And when it comes to real points, the Penguins are 5 back of the Islanders and Red Wings, who are tied with 72 for the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. The Islanders had a nice little run there. The Red Wings have lost 7 in a row. They're here this weekend. And if you'll recall what I was reporting from Ottawa, that nobody there seemed to even be talking about this, well, that wasn't the case after the game last night. Here's Mike Sullivan sounding a whole lot firmer on that topic than he did when I brought it up in Ottawa.
Well, we didn't pay attention during the game, but obviously I saw it after the game. And the reality is we're still in it. And I think that's the conversation that we've had with the group almost daily, is we've got to control what we can. We've got to try to stay in the race. We just got to keep fighting, control that one game in front of us, and see where it takes us. So we got some help tonight from the league, and we're that much closer. We just got to stay with it. I think I believe it's not insurmountable. I believe that we have what it takes to continue to push and give ourselves a chance to make the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, it's 5 points with 17 games left on the Penguins' schedule. Now, of course, different teams have different amounts of games left, but the Penguins have 17 for a possible 34 points. And all they have to do to catch up with two really other pretty mediocre teams is to just be decent. Heck, if they had just been decent over their previous 8 games, as opposed to being 1-6-1, they'd already be in a fairly comfortable playoff spot. And I don't think that's been realized by enough people. And yeah, I know, nobody cares. Everybody's mad. They're mad at everybody from the Fenway Sports Group people on down. That includes Kyle Dubas. That especially includes Sullivan. It now even includes Sidney Crosby. Once unthinkable. Sid had an assist last night, still wasn't himself. Both he and Sullivan before the game yesterday talked about his slump. Sullivan was really blunt, I thought, in attributing the slump to just the emotions of the past couple of weeks. And he didn't mention Jake Gensel's name, but that's what we're talking about here. Sid, as ever, said all the right stuff and even sounded as if he was committed to all the right stuff, and that wasn't a great individual showing again last night. And as if all that wasn't enough, the game starts last night, and the crowd was really riding the Penguins. Players were talking about it afterward. They were really after them, like, we're not going to put up with another one of these flatliners here. You'd better deliver. You're on home ice now. We're paying for this. So everybody's mad. And in the same breath, I can say that to a lot of those people, I probably sound pretty stupid even talking about the playoffs. Who cares about the playoffs? What happens if they get in? They'll be in and out like a revolving door, like Grandpa Simpson in that meme. No one will even remember who they played. in that first round to get wiped out the way they will. They might not even win a game. And to that I say, really? Really? You're going to give them that kind of mulligan here? You're going to say to them, it's okay, here's a pass. Don't worry about it. We don't want you in the playoffs anyway. We're not expecting you to do anything, so don't bother trying to get there. So I'll repeat, really? It's the playoffs. And I understand that around here that became something that was presumed to the extreme. I covered games, lots of them, in which the Penguins would clinch their playoff spot. And I would go into that locker room, ask questions about it, and most of the guys didn't even realize it had happened. But those days are over. And no matter what kind of goals or bar anyone will be setting for the 2024-25 NHL season, I'm going to put forth here that this group, this entire organizational structure would benefit right now from something, anything that's positive that doesn't make the short-term and long-term future seem like a hockey apocalypse. Also, and kind of related, I wouldn't mind seeing some of these younger players get some real playoff experience. How much do you think it might mean for Drew O'Connor to have a really nice round of playoffs? How about Valtteri Puustinen? How about what John Ludwig, who had a goal and an assist last night, could bring you in the playoffs, and what confidence that might establish within him, never mind the coach's confidence in him? Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing for this roster to see Ludwig become a top 6 mainstay? I'm not suggesting he's there yet. I'm not suggesting he's owed anything. I am suggesting that he's one of a kind on this team with what he brings. And as long as I'm at it, why not throw in Tristan Jarry if you are in fact stuck with him, meaning if that becomes the characterization of the remainder of his contract, you might as well have him. Find a way to have a good, solid round or two or whatever it would be of playoffs. So don't tell me there's nothing to it. There's no value. Everybody's mad. Everybody turned them off, tuned them out. Doesn't mean the playoffs are worthless. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Brian, who says, DK, is every single player on the Penguins having a down year? Or maybe, just maybe, is that the coaching and the system aren't getting enough out of their players? This is always a cart and a horse or a chicken and an egg argument, Brian. I agree with your general thought that if there's a commonality, if it's something across the board that the team isn't doing, then you can look at coaching, individual instruction as it applies to younger players, and even chemistry issues, and say, all right, there's something that's really going wrong here, and it can't all be the player or players that we're talking about. I very much share that viewpoint. In particular, a couple of things. One, the power play being historically bad, that's going to require some kind of solution on the coaching front. If Todd Reirden loses his job over it and he's replaced by somebody who is perceived or actually is some sort of power play ace, that's okay with me. And I say that as somebody who really kind of likes the guy and has respected a lot of the things he has been able to do well in the NHL, notably working with defensemen. I don't know what has ever qualified him to be the power play guy on a coaching staff, but this ain't it. This ain't the results, okay? The other thing that stands out from a commonality category, really, is blowing all these late leads and fading as badly as they do in the third period. if you're lazy, you can just say, well, they're old, so they're going to be tired. And I'm sure that's some of it, but there's no way that's all of it. Last night, the Sharks brought it in the third period. Score is what the score is, and it doesn't lie, but it kind of does when you're seeing that San Jose had 13 of the final 17 shots. That's not okay. And that trait, coupled with the slow starts, which they also had, that's almost universal. That's something you could pretty much bet on if they had prop bets that were that specific. There is no part of me that believes that Mike Sullivan's in trouble, but there's a lot of me that believes that we could see other types of changes to the coaching, whether that's having a different staff, whether that's just Reardon not being around, whether that's Sullivan being told to sit down and listen to some stuff. The question, I guess, is where does that come from? Because, whatever it is that you think of Kyle Dubas, this is a young GM with a more of an analytical background to him than a hockey background. I suppose he could have Jason Spezza deliver the sermon, but then Spezza doesn't have coaching experience. So, yeah. I appreciate the question anyway. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.